formal mission of U equals me is stated as a movement of conscientious objectors to intolerance, or simply stated, a movement against intolerance. And the exploration of that statement really gets to what are the similarities between people? What do we all have in common? Why are we really equal as humankind? And that's what we're going to explore.
This podcast is about exploring conversational thoughts and interviews with extraordinary people living ordinary lives of well-being. Discussions on exactly what well-being means to people day to day, factors that can influence it both internally and externally. We glean insights on how to survive and thrive in feeling satisfied in life with a greater sense of purpose. Guest hosts bring fresh new outlooks and opinions from spirituality, science, worldviews, and standing up and speaking out for what's right.
It's pretty interesting. Man needs each other and planet Earth to survive. Check it out. I think you'll like what you hear.
Hello and welcome to our U equals me podcast. Thank you for listening and joining us. My name is Bruce Jarvis, husband of the founder of U equals me Foundation, Cindy Jarvis, who is graciously allowing me in front of the mic today. I'm truly excited to be guest hosting today's podcast. The reason I'm psyched is I have the pleasure of chatting with a friend for over 50 years, my football teammate in the late 60s at the University of Washington, Harvy Blanks. Welcome, Harvy.
Thank you for having me. How you doing, Bruce?
I'm doing great. Great. Now, Harvey's the expert at this, folks. I'm just learning broadcasting.
You're very kind. I'm far from being an expert here. But
folks, you're going to hear how much of a lie that is. We're going to be reviewing a great story that is still being written. You'll hear significant parts of a professional resume of such stature that it no doubt makes family members, teachers, and professors, professional colleagues, and friends, old and new, proud just to have known and to be influenced by Harvy. As we move along, you'll see why. Here's a sneak peek. Harvy Blanks at 70 plus is one of a very select group of actors who's been selected and extolled for playing every one of revered playwright August Wilson's 10 productions. This podcast is about life. We'll talk about human foundations, struggles, triumphs, and the unique wisdom shaped by Harvy's life well lived. U equal me's reason for being is as a movement against intolerance. We'll go back in time and talk about what, in retrospect, proved to be what one might call a crucible of exclusion that the 69 UW football team went through together, which fallout affects Harvy, me, and many of our teammates' lives, and at least one of our coaches to this day. Key to this is the color of our skins. Mine is white. Harvy's is black. So as we begin, Harvy, where are you speaking to us from? How are you feeling? Tell us a little about your life these days during COVID.
Wow. Let's start with
Heavy.
that last.
Keep going, dude.
Let's start with that last one first. And if I know what's going on in my life, having to distance and at least try to be as responsible as possible with this COVID, I'm doing basically what everyone else is doing, and that's laying low in my home. I'm in Denver, Colorado, where I have a home with my partner, and this is where I've been since they cut our tour short in Seattle. We were touring an August Wilson play, which you had aforementioned, a play called Jitney, and we were in Seattle at the Seattle Rep. And yes, we had been there for, I think, 2 weeks. We were percolating. The show was really, really picking up, and I was having fun revisiting the area that I had been so fond of and played football in. And they told us, okay, one day we were performing, and the next day said we have to cancel.
Yeah, COVID has affected us all.
Yes, it has. So we're all doing the same thing, and it's trying, but if you can keep yourself busy you can find some things that you had dreamt of doing, or work out, or do some artwork, get some crayons, become an artist.
There you
just
go.
just
There
try
you
to
go.
make yourself busy. So
Keep
that's what
keep
I've been
moving.
doing. Yeah.
Like I said before, as an old lineman, keep your legs driving.
See, there you go. You know that very well because you were one of the best at doing that. So.
Well, let's go back. Havard Blanks. Am I pronouncing that right? Your given name?
It is actually Havard.
Havard.
Hazard. Havard Blank.
I've been saying it wrong all these years. I apologize.
Well, hey man, that's the bane of my existence with my name.
And by the way, folks, Harvey is spelled without an E.
That's right.
Okay. Havard Blanks, your given
Cool.
name, was raised in a close-knit neighborhood of nuclear families in southwest Chicago.
West side.
The west side of Chicago.
The west side of Chicago. That's right.
Correct me when I make mistakes here.
That's all right, man. We're in this together.
In the late 30s, the Stewarts, your mother's clan, cheered as they crossed out of Alabama. More than a dozen family members in the back of a flatbed truck.
That's right.
With Granddaddy driving.
Yes, sir. Real fast.
Non-stop to a Chicago area church offering temporary sanctuary.
Yes.
Your dad's family came north around the same time out of Mississippi. Dad's job was driving a bus, and then for years a fuel oil truck delivering throughout the city. And Mom raised the family and also was a hairdresser doing customers' hair in the house, often to the sounds of Aretha Franklin on the stereo. Sounds like good times.
We had a ball.
I'll bet. Tell us about your family, the early days before high school.
I beg your pardon, I didn't catch that.
Oh, please tell us about your family in the early days before high school.
Oh, well, we were struggling, you know. People say we would classify that as being poor. You know, Bruce, one of the things that I realized is that in our neighborhood on the west side of Chicago, there were a lot of so-called poor people, but we didn't. I know I'll speak for myself. I didn't feel poor, and we went without in many cases, but we were able to get past that and to live our lives. And I think you and I had a conversation the other day. We had families of fathers and mothers when I grew up.
Right.
There was this statistic that one, even to today, hears about it, where the fathers were absent. Well, that's not true. There were I will say most families that I grew up with and around in Chicago, Illinois, had a mother and a father.
Nuclear families.
Absolutely, and everybody worked, and we did what we had to do to get by. And so prior to going to high school, we lived in a third floor flat on the west side of Chicago. I'll never forget it, Colin Avenue. And that's where we went to school, and we socialized with I said to you earlier in the week that there were so many children in our neighborhood. There was no dearth of friends or people. Sometimes we would just hang out in a group and talk and wistfully think about our futures and that sort of thing. So I had a great time, man. And they called our place where we live the ghetto. These are the people that the intellectuals that name things,
right?
But at that time it was called the slums. But notwithstanding the titles, the aphorisms, whatever they want to call it, we embraced each other. We loved each other. We had fun. And there were some trying times, but when asked, as I got older, what my childhood was like, I have to say I had a happy childhood.
You called it home the other day, and very warmly.
Yes, home. I didn't come out of there scarred or resentful or anything like that. So it was home. Yeah.
So you became a neighborhood football star, you told me. I mean, obviously.
Well,
And then
yeah, citywide. I was an All-American, all city, all state, that sort of thing.
right, and that was at Admiral Farragut High School, along with your teammate Mac Heron, who later played at Kansas State in the NFL. You guys were tight, it sounds like.
Oh man, we used to sleep in the same bed. Bought our track meets and stuff where we competed, and as little kids, I'm saying 9 and 10 years old, we would go out on these road trips, and one of the most exciting thing about it was buying pajamas. So we would go shopping for the pajamas together and whatnot. Slept in the same bed sometimes. We spent the night and that sort of thing. So we grew up like brothers, and many of us did. We had the sleepovers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, while in high school, you're an All-American high school football player. No doubt you had high school letter jackets, etc. But there was a brief snippet of theater, at least a non-serious drama tryout at Farragut, right?
Well, that was a pretty popular, the drama club, because of the pretty girls, and the music and the sort of show business aspects of our choir, and we were our orchestra and that sort of thing. But our drama department was the most famous thing going on campus, on our high school campus. So I would go back and forth, and I would look in, and occasionally I would go in and dabble, And one day they asked me to come up and read from a script. They were short one person, and I did, and I used like an English accent, and they were like, "Oh wow, we didn't know we didn't know you could do this." And
where'd that come from?
Yes, but what happened was I couldn't actually be a part of it as much as I wanted to, because I was always doing my athletic thing. It went one thing bled into another: football, basketball, baseball, track, and and I lettered in all of them, and so I was constantly busy being physical and doing physical work, and never could get into the arts.
At some point there, you made the choice to accept a football scholarship at Washington, the University of Washington, after visiting campus in January of 1966. Why Washington?
Well, I tell you, we had been going out you had mentioned the number of schools that you received offers from, and we were basically the same way. So we had been going to schools together, visiting schools. We, as in myself and Mac, and 2 or 3 others that schools were interested in bringing us in as a group. So we had gone out and visited schools, and it was a very exciting period for me. And one day, I found myself on a runway, probably one of the last planes that could get out of O'Hare airport at that time, because of snow. We were being snowed in. And so we were fortunate enough to take off and head to the Northwest, where Mac Heron, my friend, didn't accompany me on this trip, because I think even at that time he had decided he was going to go and play at Kansas State. Well, I just wanted to, as a curiosity, I just wanted to go out and see what this University of Washington was all about. And as we were in the air flying, I think I had been taking a nap or something, and I woke up. I opened my eyes, and I looked to my right. I was sitting on the right side of the plane, and I saw these mountains and this greenery and this glorious sun. And I was kind of shocked at first. I had never seen anything so beautiful in my life. Then I looked to the left, same thing, just totally surrounded by mountains, and I could not believe it, man. It was unbelievable, and the rest is history. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the nature of the environment, the beauty that I had never seen anything like it. So
Little different than the hood.
yes, yes, or the area, or the flatness of the Midwest,
Right.
the
Right.
prosaicness of just the corn and wheat being grown, and
Lake Michigan shoreline.
yes, yes, but which is beautiful, but
Right.
this was something else again.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
the school itself, what is University of Washington. It's one of the most beautiful campuses in the country as well. So no, they had me. By the time we landed, I was ready to go.
Gotcha. Well, in my days at the NFL, we had at one point two guys that had run wind dated 9.3 and 9.400s, and another team member who at that time actually held the world record as a member of the USC 4x100 relay team. But until you joined us at the UW, we never had an athlete that explosive. You were hand-timed, as I remember, at 4.3 in the 40 by the Washington track coach and a couple of football assistants, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. Well, how'd they react to that when you blew everybody away and ran a 4.3?
Well, they didn't actually. They
no big deal.
It was certainly no big deal to me, because as I heard what the time, I said, man, I bet you I could run a 4.2. So so I didn't. After that, that was the final sprint of the day. But no, they just kind of looked and said, okay, 4.3.
Nope.
And someone said something like that. But in terms of reacting in a very physical or frenetic way, no, it was just taken as part of the deal. Okay, great workout, guys. Let's go.
I bring it up because I and others noticed what we had who just joined the team, and in my observation, we didn't have anybody that could run like that could run a pass pattern like you could, etc. And that'll really come up later as we go on. You'd spent a prior year once you got out there at a local community college, and then at the UW, the athletic department helped you find a tutor with whom you're still very close to this day. Yes,
absolutely. Barry Marr, I should say Dr. Barry Marr.
Dr. Barry Marr.
Who was one of his students. He was a student. Well, he helped the professors. What do you call those guys?
Tutor.
Yes. Yes, he certainly was my tutor. But there was
he's your close friend today.
Yes.
We had lunch with him recently.
Yes, he helped me along, and when I got kicked off the team out there at Washington, he the day I got kicked off, the next day he quit. He quit the program because he was working his way through doing his graduate work there as well. And
he knew.
Go ahead, Bruce.
He was affected by that tumult. We're going to talk about that here as we go along.
Yes. Sorely. He was ticked off about it. Yes.
Right. You mentioned. I just want to go over this. You mentioned an exceptional paper of yours that a favorite professor for a lot of us at the time in Far Eastern history, Dr. Yvonne Spector, had posted on his campus hallway bulletin board.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I start out by saying that I was trying to get used to the academic experience on campus. And part of that was the fact that oftentimes it was I was being instructed as to how to conform to how to write a paper, basically, which I've learned in my experiences how to do.
Sure.
But my first paper in Mid-Eastern history was I got an F. And my dear friend Barry Marr was the one that gave it to me. So, so as things went on and as I became adapted to the environment and the learning experience, I learned how to write a paper and grammatically and mechanically. And one of my first papers that I did in Far Eastern history. Remember, that was the course we took from
Right.
the Far Eastern history. I got an A, a big red A, right on my blue book.
How'd that feel?
It was fabulous. It was like, wow, man, I can do this. And also, it was in his Professor Spector's estimation, it was one of the best papers he had said that had ever been written about the particular subject matter. And he took the blue book and he went out in the hall and he put it on the academic board where he would put papers that were exceptional. So,
and just a little context, folks. I was in school at the same time, and I never got any of that at that point in my career.
Well, I mean, we were all doing our thing, and it was just so happened that was my experience, and it was exciting. And Bruce, I didn't tell you this, but I called my mom and told her. She was very, very proud because her son was going to get a degree, and that more than anything else was what my mom wanted me to do, the football and all of that stuff. And she called it her degree. She said, "You just bring my degree home." So,
well, I think that's going to explain a little bit between the lines of what we're going to talk about as we go forward here. On the football field, after playing sparingly your first year, the first half of the next season, you played increasingly.
Yeah.
So successfully, you were named all conference, but by the end of the season, your on-field time was cut. What was your reaction?
I could not understand what was going on. And I couldn't understand why other ball players were not playing, especially other black ball players. And it was like, it was just stunning to me. But at the same time, I was also kind of envious of what was happening in the Big 8 conference at the time with Mac Heron, my friend, who was becoming quite the name in the country, scoring touchdown after touchdown. I think he finished that year with 20 touchdowns. Right. So knowing that he and I basically had the same kind of talents and whatnot, I could not understand. First of all, I just couldn't understand why I didn't get the ball as much. And I was kind of ticked off because they didn't throw me the ball. I could run patterns. I used to love to catch the ball, and I could do it. And what I thought made me such a dangerous ball player was the fact that after I caught it, I could run with it. And I just couldn't figure it out.
You were a weapon out of the backfield catching passes, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, I was there. I was on the field, and I was blocking for you.
Right.
So in 69, after opening with 6 or 7 straight losses, amid campus unrest, fueled by the Vietnam War and radical social change, the mood on the Husky football team changed. Why was that?
Well, by that time, we had gone through the whole kind of metamorphosis, if I could say so, because as you just laid out, there was unrest everywhere based on the war, the political aspects of it, and the civil aspects of it. The fact that we had a hard time being ourselves, the black athletes on that team. There were things that were being said to us. I don't have to go through through that experience, but specifically. But it was not a comfortable place to be if you were a black athlete. There was problems with our hair. We they didn't want us to wear mustaches, and we were, that was the era of hair, the great production, and we were all sort of the hair was getting longer, and in the black athletes we were growing naturals and this sort of thing. So from that point to other things that I can't speak about specifically, but because of time restraints and that sort of thing.
Right.
But
right. Well,
we weren't having a good time as student athletes on Washington's team.
Right. You, along with 3 other African American football players, were suspended, which became front page news throughout the country the next day. And the team's remaining black players were not allowed to fly to LA to play UCLA, where we white teammates got shellacked by about 40 points. What happened that day at practice?
Well, I think you're referring to when Jim Owens decided that he wanted to talk to each individual out on the field and extract from us, at least as to my experience with what happened, extract from us a loyalty oath. And
and everybody listening should know that was not just the black players; it was the white players as well.
Correct. Everyone had to go and before the coach, who perched himself out on the field, and he called us over individually, and he questioned us. I found out later that he asked different questions of different people, but in talking to you the other day, you and I got the same question. So
that's right. It became called the loyalty.
Yes, it was a loyalty oath. Are you? He asked me if I was going to be loyal to the team and to him.
110%.
110% commitment is the way he put it. And I said, of course, whenever I'm out on the field, I will give my best to my team, my teammates, to the university, that sort of thing. But 110% commitment to you, I can't give you 110% commitment. But, the way I took it, it was like, I don't have to like you, and you don't have to like me. Just play me and let me do my thing. So it was an absurd question as far as I was concerned, and the rest is history. I told him I couldn't give him 110%, but I certainly wanted to play, and I liked my teammates and that sort of thing, and I came there to play football. So that's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the sake of time, we're going to come back to this moment, but let's move forward with your life.
Yes.
Your playing days are over, as you said. Your athletic scholarship was rescinded after spring quarter 1970. On academic upper campus, however, you're excelling in drama such that you were awarded an academic scholarship and entered the Bachelor of Fine Arts, essentially an honors program, in my words, substantially located in England, equivalent to, as you said, the Juilliard School of Music in New York.
Yeah.
So tell us about that program and your academic experience up until your UW graduation.
Well, it was a program that was basically discovered, grew out of the head of Duncan Ross, who was one of the fine actors and directors out of England. And he developed the program and on Washington's campus. All of our classes were off campus. Basically, we had our own structure, our own facilities, and that sort of thing. So it was a program that the kids in the program were handpicked, and they came from all over the country, from coast to coast and anywhere in between. And we would spend hours upon hours studying drama, and that's what the fine arts part of it was. We were basically professionals that weren't being paid. So, because of our whole life was spent on learning the craft. So
Right.
so I was gone to England, and shortly after England, studying there, I had become part of the BFA program. But shortly after coming back, I still had that football thing, but in my blood. But I was also very bitter from being kicked off
Right.
the team, and I could not concentrate. I was not into doing what I was doing, and I quit.
But that was the BFA program.
Yes,
Eventually, in 1973, as I recall, you did graduate with a BA from the University of Washington.
correct.
Right?
My mama was on me, man. She was like, she said,
Thank goodness.
all right. She said, I didn't send you out there to come back here with nothing. You bring me that degree. That's my
Finish
degree.
up, son.
And so,
Okay.
so I did.
Okay.
Fortunately,
And in your late,
go ahead.
well, I was going to say, in your late 20s, you were a major force in developing the Paul Robeson Theater, performing successfully with productions receiving critical acclaim at the Langston Hughes Center in Seattle. Were those good days?
Those were wonderful days because the training that I had gotten before quitting at Washington, I had learned so much. And if I have any regrets, it's not finishing that program.
Meaning,
Some of my best days were spent on that program, and it developed me into the artist that I would become.
right.
Leaning on a lot of the stuff that I learned there, and
Is-
so I used that to basically develop our own theater company. It became a great theater company. We did a lot of original musical theater there, and it was successful.
It's still going at this time?
No, it ended sometimes. I think in the 80s, in the
Gotcha.
80s, 90s. Yeah.
Well, at 29, you left Seattle for Chicago and had a brief tryout with the now defunct Rural Football League Chicago Fire.
Mm-hmm.
While you still ran a 4.40 at that age, you were cut. You told me at some point you realized you were, quote, chasing a goal everyone else set for me. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know how it is, Bruce. I mean, you were a fabulous athlete yourself. So, and that's the way I came up. I came up wanting to be this, and became this person that was revered because of my physical attributes. I could do things that other people couldn't do. I was used to being acclaimed as a standout athlete, and that sort of thing. And it gets to your head. You become conceited. You can become. It's a lofty kind of a feeling that you gain being Harvey blank.
Right.
And little did I know that the other experiences that I was evolving into, and the person that I was becoming as I grew older, had very very little desire to be that Harvey blank, that athlete. I just
Right.
wanted to do it because everybody else wanted to see Harvey Blanks run or perform on whatever athletic field I was participating in.
Right.
So
Well, in Chicago, go ahead.
yeah, so it it didn't dawn on me till later. I was on the practice field, and I was looking up, and a plane was flying by, and I saw that plane, and I wanted to be on that plane. And
Yeah, you were actually, as I recall, you were trying out for the Broncos at
yeah,
the
I was
time in
with
Pomona,
Denver at the
California,
time.
to tryout camp.
Correct. After all the tumult had come to pass, and I finally got an opportunity through Jim Owens, actually, to
And you had to try out, and you looked up at the plane, and you knew you needed to be elsewhere,
yeah, I
right?
wanted to be on that plane, man. I said, I want to go. And I knew at that point.
Leaving on a
Jet
jet
plane.
plane.
Good memory.
So in Chicago, back to Chicago at 30, if I recall correctly, you're now making a living acting at the well-known Goodman Theater. When you were spotted by two recruiters on a nationwide search for a musical role in Denver, then what?
I got the role after a lot of going and coming. I mean, they went. It was a national tour, and so they came in. They auditioned me, and a month and a half or so later, they came back to the city, where at that point I was doing a very revolutionary version of Hamlet at the Civic. And the Goodman called me and said, they're back here again. So, can you come down and audition? Which I did. And then they told me the next day that I had the role and they wanted to bring me out to Denver.
Right. You became an actor in residence.
Yes.
At the Denver Center for the Performing Arts.
Correct.
One of 3 such resident performing arts programs in the country.
That's correct.
So it's a big, big deal.
It was a big deal.
With roles in a part in that performing arts center that you had for 23 years.
Yes.
What era of your life did that whole session span?
When you're talking chronologically, it's hard for me to piece things together. Even in speaking with you are more capable of basically sussing it out. But I think
right. Well, I'm thinking that we're talking mid 30s to 60, really, almost.
Yes.
But you're doing other things because in the off season, the summer months, you went to New York and began acting off Broadway. Right.
I became and I did that purposely because I knew once the leader of an artistic director of Denver Center Theater resigned, as with most theaters, when they bring in a new regime or whatever, oftentimes the actors that were there are asked to leave, and so I knew at some point that would happen to me, and it was a point in time where I began to think forward in my life. So I every time I had an opportunity to leave, or I wasn't on contract, I would leave the city and go elsewhere.
We in finance, Harvey, would call that diversifying. Very wise thing to do.
Absolutely, I diversified.
You diversified.
Yeah.
But while you were going in and out of New York City during that 23-year period, on and off, it was there you were recruited, and you're working as an actor at the time. But you were recruited by Cornell University School of Drama to attain a master's degree.
Right.
And you did that in Ithaca, New York, where Cornell campus is located. You attended classes, you taught drama and acted.
Right.
And you were offered, as you told me, and declined to do another 2 years for a PhD.
Right.
You told me the academic rigor stretched you. It was good for me, you said. How so?
Well, again, the nature of the education, and when you do talk about places like Harvard, Princeton, Cornell, Brown, whatever, there is more than just a name. I mean, you get in there, man, and you have to study, and they do because of the other activities that I took part in on campus. I had to study as well. But they designed a program for me whereby I was part of a committee, and there were professors designated to work with me, basically like a tutor. And so I would go and sit in. My classes were one-on-one, and I would be given a curriculum, whereby I had to read a number of books and write a number of papers in order to meet that curriculum.
And did your acting change during that period of time, or because of it?
Actually, my knowledge of acting, not just from a practical, but a theoretical aspect, the way I approached it, and encompassing the entire historical significance, the writers, the directors, what was happening socioeconomically, all of that, the knowledge that I got out of that kind of teaching made me a better actor, because
Right.
I was able to lend myself to what was happening in the world, and what made this person and what made this particular these particular people act and react and do certain things. So my experience as an actor became more profound because it became more prodigious. I was able to relate a lot more to my environment, the architecture within my own mental skies, and so it was. Yes, I would say I became a better actor because I became a more fuller person. Hey,
Got it. Got it. Great experience. So really, this master's degree at Cornell happened during this 23-year period when you were still in residence in Denver.
Correct.
Right. And so I'm going to just approximate that sometime as you're approaching 60 or around that point, that's when you leave the Denver program and you're spending time mostly in New York City, although I think you maintain a home in Denver, right?
Yes.
And you told me your New York City digs are on the 139th and Riverside, Upper West Harvey.
That's correct. Way to go.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, it was one of those, going back to that term you guys use in economics, diversify. By that time I had a community of people that I would work with in New York. And, so that when that inevitable day, came when the artistic director decided that he was moving on with his life. In fact, actually, he was retiring. He retired, and what was to me the inevitability of some of the changing of the guards occurred, and actors were asked to leave and whatnot. However, I was asked to stay, but I basically I tell you what, after working under Donovan Marley, it's hard to really explain what a great experience that was, and I just could not see myself staying, and I didn't want to stay because I had other kinds of things I was working on,
right? Well,
that sort of thing.
By now you're doing Broadway as well as off
Broadway.
Yes. So you're growing out really of the Denver program, and so how in your 60s did you get into the exclusive club of actors you call the August Wilson Warriors?
Well, at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts, because it was a repertory theater company, you could find yourself going from Shakespeare, Moliere, to the classics, Tennessee Williams, American classic Tennessee Williams, and doing contemporary stuff, and it was very eclectic. So that as during that period, August Wilson came on the scene, one of the most powerful. He's basically called the Shakespeare of drama, American drama, and we had a wonderful wonderful director named the late Israel Hicks, who was not only an associate of August Wilson's, uh, but he was an associate artistic director. They had made him an associate artistic director at the University of Washington. And he also,
and you
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
You told me Mrs. Wilson had a hand in your selection.
Well, sure. In terms of becoming a warrior, because August Wilson warrior, because she has a hand in selecting or poo-pooing those those people who she didn't does not want to work in his image or on stage or doing the work that she considers to be an August Wilson kind of quality. And so I'm one of those persons that she said yay to, and I appreciate that.
You made the team. You made the team, and a very important team in nationwide in American drama.
Absolutely. But let me. I want to finish on Israel Hicks because he was also very important to that experience. Israel directed me in who is also associated, of course, with Ms. Constanza Romero, which is August Wilson's wife, widow now. But he directed me in 8 of August Wilson's pieces. So I had the opportunity of being a member of the company and working on, for 8 years, August Wilson at the Denver Center for Performing Arts under the tutelage of Israel Hicks. So,
wow.
And many of those.
What an achievement. What an achievement. For the sake of time, let's go back now. Harvey, as a white player, I saw the racism in the UW football program when we played. 40 plus years after, head coach Jim Owens acknowledged as much and apologized to a homecoming crowd a few years before he died. Another quote from you about that day of player suspensions and your time before and after is, quote, this is what you said to me. Everyone runs into obstacles, but you have to keep your dignity. Those coaches tried to take your dignity. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it was a very. I said it based on the reductivity of
our experiences out there, white and black, and I saw a lot of white players who were not treated with dignity, man. And I think at the time we were kids, man. We were kids. And I look at it in retrospect and I say, well, wait a minute. How can these grown ass men, excuse my term, treat children like that? And we were 18, 19 years old. Right. Come on. But it was just the nature of and I don't know, I guess many other programs were high powered programs like we were playing with under. I guess you get that sort of thing that happens when winning becomes everything.
Right. Well, it seems to me, and you tell me what you think, that intolerance at its core is a method of attacking a person's dignity, of attempting to erode one's self-respect. And when it comes down to it, for you or for any of us, the choice of how to react to intolerance is binary. Ironically, it's black or white. You can allow the attack on your dignity to diminish you or not. Did you see it that way at the time?
I always saw it that way, man. It was like my mom and my dad told me, you can go anywhere you want to go, do, experience anything you want to experience, but never, ever lose your dignity. That's the way we were socialized. Not just myself, my brothers, sister, people around. That was important to us, man. Dignity. So when I came out of Chicago, I feared no man, or woman either. So that I think that proposition lends itself to the fact that I saw everyone as a human being and anticipated that would be reciprocal. Right. I was also naive. There's certain guys you can't just grab and hug and and embrace that sort of thing, because there's a separate.
You tried with Jim Owens, but it didn't work.
Didn't work. I mean, it was like he was like God. He walked across Lake Washington to work.
That's what we said. Yeah. So in retrospect, the attack of intolerance by our coaches on you and the other black players was an attack on, as you said, on all of us players, black, white, purple.
That's why I saw
our school colors at some level. That day in '69, in a very real way, changed your life for the better. It appears to me.
It was I went through hell because
eventually, I get much better. Really,
I came out on the other side a better person. But the road, the journey that I took to get there was a lot of pain and a lot of. I was not necessarily a very good guy after that thing. I became a different person, man. I went into that valley of drugs and deceit and just not being a good person at all. I did some things to hurt people, and those are regrets that I have based on the fact that I was also trying to reach a certain level in my life, and when it was taken from me, and I thought taken from me by people unfairly certainly, but by people who I came to really hate, and I use that word, but I'm being truthful, and that hate ate at me to such a degree that I couldn't be human, and so I went through a part of life where I resented even those people who were reaching out to try and help me.
Right. And as we chronicled your life, I put that period between the time that you left the team until really you got into the Paul Robeson Theater and really you were going another direction in a very productive way.
Yes, but even still, it was that the wound was still open. It was very fresh. I was not a good person. I was not.
Sure.
The people around me, I should have been more careful with my life. But I was blind, and I tell people sometimes I was clinical, but I didn't, I needed help. I didn't reach out to access it. But because of that one thing that happened that day on the field, it was, the trajectory was one in which I just went through things that I regret as a human being, just as a human being, man, not just.
But as I say, you came out of that valley that you described, and it affects all of us. I think that we're part of it to this day, and you were in the middle, and it's totally understandable.
Well, thank you for that. It's hard for me to embrace that, but I do know that some of the people, my dearest friends, and I can count them on one hand, really, but they came out of that era of my life. They hung around.
Hung in there.
They embraced me. They saw the change oftentimes, and they commented on it.
Right.
But they're still there.
Yeah. As you've said to me, you come from a family of storytellers. I want to share a story with our listeners. In 2019, recently, our college-age son, Cindy's and mine, and I were being dragged by his mother to a play called Familiar at the Bagley Wright Theater in the Seattle Center on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. There was the usual griping and questioning as we took our seats. Why the hell are we here, honey? Blah, 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 blah. I opened the playbill, the program as we football jocks used to call it. And the first item I came to was the credentials of the male lead in what turned out to be a delightful comedy about the family dynamics of a biracial couple about to get married. The actor, with starring credits on Broadway, the London stage, TV guest appearances, and with a host of major American touring productions listed, was that guy that got off the train in Seattle in 1966, Harvy Blanks. I got him a message backstage, and eventually we hooked up, and voila, just like that. We're on the same team again. Pretty fun, huh, Harvey?
Man, and I hark back to that young kid, 18, 19-year-old, tall, lanky, agile, white guy.
Slow of foot, but quick.
But you were quick and you were mean. And that sort of like was fun to watch because he was such a delightful guy off the field. You had those two faces, but and you were going through your histrionics as well with trying to become eligible to play football there. They had thrown you a curveball, and you had to fight for the right to become a student athlete at the University of Washington as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the story for another day. We've got to wrap it up, my friend. We're coming up on an hour here. Thank you, my friend, for sharing your time and your story with us today, and for just coming back into my life.
Man, I love you, Bruce, and your wonderful wife, Cindy. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about these experiences because I don't do it, I don't. It's not forthcoming with everyone. So
yeah, we were lucky.
So thank you.
So I want to thank you and your partner Lara, and I want to thank you podcasters for listening to us today to our U equals Me podcast, and we'll sign off with a very meaningful time. Again, thank you, Harvey.
Thank you so much.
We hope you've enjoyed our broadcast today. If you have, please share with family and friends. For those who wish to support the U equals Me Foundation, your tax-deductible purchases of U equals Me logo wear can be found at uequalsme.org or our U equals Me Etsy store, which is all one word in your Google search. For a complimentary copy of our ebook, Wisdom Along the Way, a book of notes and quotes, you can join our One Worlders group email list at uequalsme.org. Links will be in the show notes. Thank you. Much love around the world. Be safe, be kind, be you.